Considering 2016 was filled with disappointing video games, picking a game of the year can be quite difficult. After all, when most Game of the Year contenders are indie games such as Inside and The Witness, it's clear that few worthwhile games released last year. In general, the AAA titles that seem to be competing for the prize are Uncharted 4 and Overwatch. Others like Titanfall 2, Doom, and Battlefield 1 also seem to have made an impact this past year, but rarely seem to be mentioned in the grand scheme of things. Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to tell you why I think Overwatch is the best game of 2016. If you don't like competitive games or first-person shooters, then Overwatch isn't for you. Well, I might say that, but I feel like Overwatch is different enough to be enjoyable for people who don't normally find themselves in that crowd. Despite being first-person and being a competitive game, Overwatch relies heavily on team cooperation and offers a variety of characters who don't actually require high levels of skill to play. This lets people without much experience in the FPS genre drop in and play without having to worry about precision aiming. Sure, you won't be able to headshot everybody as Widowmaker instantly, but with practice on characters like Mercy, who staff locks on the allies to heal them, Reinhardt, who holds a giant shield to protect allies, or even Junkrat, who lobs grenades into the air mindlessly, Overwatch is definitely a gateway into the FPS genre. And as you would expect from any great video game, there are plenty of high-skill heroes who have layers of depth to mastering them. Regardless of how accessible a game is, no one cares if it's not fun, right? Fortunately, that's nothing to worry about. Every character plays so uniquely that every match feels like a vastly different experience. Heroes are split into 4 categories: offense, defense, tank, and support. Even within their own group, characters feel immensely different. Soldier 76 and Tracer both fill an offense slot, but perform vastly different roles. Soldier 76 is a run-and-gun soldier type with a light healing ability who also sticks with his allies. On the other hand, Tracer is a speedy, time-shifting flanker who sneaks behind the enemy's ranks to demolish weaker heroes before returning. Similarly for the support category, Lucio is an area of effect support character who can either heal his team or increase their movement speed to reach the objective quicker. On the other hand, a character such as Symmetra is also in the support category, but she doesn't even have healing abilities. Instead, she sets up damage-dealing turrets to control a wide area while also being able to project a moving barrier to block incoming attacks. And for her ultimate, she can set up a teleporter to bring her teammates back to the fight quicker, or set up a regenerating shield generator to act as extra health. These are only a few examples of the game's unique characters, but I assure you that each and every character has an amazing level of creativity which makes them fun and interesting to play. While Overwatch only has 3 main game modes plus the arcade where casual game modes are offered from time to time, each of the game's primary game modes are immensely fun. If games in 2016 lacked one thing, it was fun. Fortunately, each of Overwatch's game modes provide that satisfying rush when your team makes a big push by stopping the enemy team in their tracks, or coming back from death to save your team with an unprecedented ultimate. Payload has the attackers escorting a moving vehicle to a point while the defenders do everything in their power to stop it. Capture has the attackers trying to occupy 2 consecutive points for a set amount of time while the defenders protect the point. Lastly, Control pits 2 teams against each other to occupy a single point in a tug-of-war style battle. Fortunately, with such a unique cast of characters and wonderful map design for the majority of maps, each match is a fresh experience. Oh, and did I mention the play of the game feature that shows the most impressive act that happened at the end of every game? It's easily one of the coolest features to ever be seen in a competitive game and makes for some insane replays and gifs to hit the internet. With only 23 characters and 13 maps, well, technically the 14th map Oasis released yesterday, Overwatch may sound light on content for a multiplayer-only game without a story mode. As much as some sort of campaign would be nice, it is nice to see Overwatch exceed expectations and shine exactly where it needs to, the multiplayer. As Blizzard wants to see the game keep its popularity and remain relevant in the competitive scene, they release new characters and maps over time. With such a focus on the multiplayer aspect, Blizzard provides an unprecedented enjoyment in competitive gaming. If a single-player mode or other additional modes were implemented, I fear that the budget may have cut certain things, for example maybe a lower frame rate, fewer characters, and so forth. Oh, and before I forget, Overwatch does have a story in the form of high-quality animation shorts and comics, so the playable characters and maps do get their own history. Surprisingly, some of my personal favorite aspects about Overwatch actually come from outside the game itself. The dev team at Blizzard is wonderfully connected to the community, constantly providing information on upcoming updates and directly responding to fan feedback. And, more than just responding to it, often implement the requests that fans make on Reddit or the official forums. Balancing comes into play a lot, and while no game will ever be perfect and patches will change the current meta at each time, they have done a superb job so far in keeping both the casual and competitive scenes aligned simultaneously. For myself personally, as both a PC and console gamer, I appreciate the support that consoles have gotten recently where they receive updates at the same time as PC. Lastly, the community for Overwatch is easily one of my favorite gaming communities I've ever been a part of. Filled with tons of grateful players, hilarious shit posters, and just everything else that you can see on the internet, it's easy to forget about the toxic players that do infect your games now and again. Ultimately, it all comes back to fun, and Overwatch does just that. By the end of 2016, I still wanted to play Overwatch more than any of the other games I had bought. For a game to be out this long and still hold my interest is pretty rare in this era of gaming, so I must applaud Overwatch for being able to do so. In all honesty, Overwatch might be more than just Game of the Year for 2016 for me. It may very well be one of my favorite games of all time.